closing, I'll just remind you that we appreciate if you will turn your cell phones to silent or off so that they don't create distractions to speakers. If you are here for just a particular item of the agenda, we understand that you may need to leave after discussion of that item, and we understand. So whenever that happens and you need to slip out, that is perfectly all right. But we do welcome you, and we welcome you to stay for as much of the meeting as you can. We're going to rise for a moment of silence and remain standing for the pledge to flag. Thank you. And now the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. The first item is adoption of the agenda. Does anyone have questions about or changes to the agenda?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I'm sleepy. A couple of items. One being amend the agenda to add item number 25A to consider the Clark County Board of Education completing the self-evaluation and deciding which one you want to complete. So consider approval of completing and deciding self-evaluation document. Agenda item number 45. It's not an amendment, but it is an updated information on the personnel action report. The one that was posted was last month's. You now have February's report. We need to amend the agenda to add item 23A. The board will need to consider approval of a date for a closed session for disciplinary hearing per KRS 61.810 subsection 1 subsection F. And board chair will give you a couple of dates to consider. Board chair, I think that is all we discussed today.
Any questions? A motion is in order to adopt the agenda as amended.
Make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Fatkin.
Second.
Second by Mr. Swope. Other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. The next item is approval of two sets of minutes, the January 17th meeting and the January 27th draft budget meeting. Any questions about those minutes? A motion is in order to approve both sets of minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 17th and 24th meeting.
Motion by Ms. Wolf.
Second.
Second by Ms. Fatkin. Other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next we have public comments. The first, Alan and Christy Christopher. Do you wish to speak, or you just signed in because you're here? Thank you. And John Graves, last meeting, special needs kids is your topic.
At the last board meeting, when we were reviewing...
Can you come to the podium, please, so we can hear?
At the last board meeting, we were reviewing the numbers, and special needs kids enrollment in Clark County had dropped to a shocking 13%. at that time. It had always been kind of wavering in about a 1% area for the last few years, but then it just did a nosedive at 13%. It's always been a problem in Clark County for special needs kids, but over the last 2.5, 3 years, it has become a severe problem. And I noticed that last time no one addressed it. To my knowledge, it still has not been addressed. And as the mother of 2 special needs children and a founder of a support group for parents of special needs kids, I'm here representing them, asking, what are you going to do about it? Because from a parental standpoint, this board and superintendent, and thereby Clark County Schools, is neglecting special needs kids and possibly even violating civil rights to an education. So something really needs to be done, and I am here to ask you, before we have to go any further with it, to come up with a plan of how you're going to meet these needs, what you're going to do, set benchmarks, check them, and go over them. You should be addressing special needs children just as diligently as you are your budget and other educational needs. But I don't see that happening, and we'd like to know why.
It's the policy of the board, Ms. Graves, that during the public comment period, we listen, we do not respond, we listen.
I'd like to ask what your specific concerns are.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to ask what your specific concerns are. Are you concerned that the number of special education children is too low in the district? Are you concerned that we are not providing enough services for them? What are your specific concerns?
I'm concerned that the majority of parents with special needs kids are rapidly pulling their kids out of Clark County public school to homeschool and other things because they are not getting what they need in school, whether that be safety at the middle school level. That's most prominent. It's a major safety issue because of the bullying. On the other levels, we have IEPs that are supposed to be upheld and done, and parents go to meetings and they come back frustrated. We have medical documentation for kids that have needs that is just totally being disregarded in the IEPs, despite the fact that it is medical documentation. I mean, it goes on in every area. There needs to be some serious overhaul, and I don't think that anybody is taking it serious enough. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
So, nobody's going to say anything? I highly suggest that, this is what this is supposed to be.
Okay.
You wanted me to come to school board meetings. You said you wanted to see people here. You wanted me here. I'm here. I'm asking for your input. This is what we do as a community with one vision and one voice.
Thank you. Ms. Ferris is going to respond.
We can have our special ed director to bring back at the next board meeting all the things that we're doing with our special needs students. And also we can bring you back the data on how we are meeting the needs of our students. And if the concern that you addressed on the decline in the special needs students in our district, we don't have any data that says they are leaving our district going to homeschool. What it is showing us is that we are responding to their needs with response to intervention, and many of our students are moving out of special education into regular education. But I can have our special ed director to bring that information to the board and to the public at our next board meeting. Be glad to do that. Matter of fact, if you look across the region that we serve, Clark County has the best data on students with special education that are proficient and distinguished in our co-op region, and we'll bring that to you and let you see that.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next part of the agenda, the superintendent's report, first student and staff recognitions.
Good evening. This is the most important part of our meeting, where we get to recognize our students and our staff, and we really enjoy this part of the meeting. At this time, board members, I want to remind you that you allowed the schools to buy a program called VMath, which is a computerized math program that's designed to teach students about math standards and skills. And it allows the students to compete in real time with students in countries across the world. And since we have implemented VMath, which has been the last couple of months, our students have just grasped hold of this and they have taken off and run with it. So that's why you see many of our students and our parents in our audience tonight, because we want to recognize those students who have been doing so well with VMath from Central Elementary School tonight. In February, we had Lucas Perdo. Based on his time with VMath, he has placed 4th in the nation. And remember, we're talking about all the students in the 4th grade. So we have Lucas Perdo here with us tonight. Is he here? Come right on up and get your certificate. And that's the entire world now, guys. Also, we have January VMath placements from Central Elementary. Ashley Martin, in January, she placed 24th in the world on VMath. Is she here? All right, come on. Ashley has dedicated much time at school and at home working on this program, and as you can see, her efforts have really paid off. We have Samuel Hernandez, who placed 63rd in the world during the month of January on VMath. Is here. Okay, he's not here, but let's give him a big hand. Dylan Jacob placed 80th in the world during the month of January on VMath. Is he here? All right. And Jacob Christopher placed 82nd in the world during the month of January on VMath. And as I said earlier, boy, you all allowed the schools to have this program, and they have been so excited about it. Mr. Christopher and I had an opportunity to have some discussion when I came in the boardroom a little earlier. He said he didn't realize that his son could work on it at home. He said, so he will be working on it at home as well. It is a web-based program, and you can do it at home, at the library, at school, and the kids have really grasped hold of this, and we just keep getting comments and accolades from the principals how well this program is working. So thank you on behalf of our principals. The next individual you'd like to recognize is Mr. Tommy Wright. Tommy is a student at Sure Elementary School in the 3rd grade, and he won first place in the statewide Martin Luther King Jr. kindergarten through 3rd grade essay contest that is held every year across the state. All the school districts across the state are asked to compete, and Tommy won this year, and the contest title was The King and Me. And Tommy had an opportunity to have his picture taken with the governor, if you all hadn't seen that. And he also got a certificate along with a $200 savings bond. And his kindergarten teacher, who is here with him tonight, Miss Angela Hummel, encouraged him to enter the contest because he had entered it when he was a younger student there. And his homeroom teacher is Sarah Berry. And so congratulations to you, Tommy. And Tommy wants to read his essay for us.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Hello. Here it is. Martin Luther King Jr. was a great man. He made a difference in how people were treated. He fought for people to be treated equal no matter what their skin color. He felt that that skin color should not matter in everyday life of people. In my life, I see many kids that are treated different because of the way they live and how much money they have. I feel that this is wrong because it should not matter where a person lives or how much money they have. In school, kids are picked on
and bullied for being poor. I feel that this is very wrong because everyone is the same inside. Like Martin Luther King Jr., I stand up for those kids that are picked on. I believe that in school everyone should be treated the same because they are in school for one reason, to learn. Martin Luther King Jr. inspired me to stand up for the kid for what I believe in, and like him, I want to help those kids feel like they belong and are special.
Thank you, Tommy. A lesson for all of us to learn. We'd also like for our parents and our grandparents and extended family to stand with those students that were recognized tonight. We know that we cannot do this without you, and we want to give you a round of applause as well. Will the parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles stand tonight? Again, congratulations and thank you so very much. Also tonight we have with us Mr. Michael Kendrick, who is here from the college, from Career Tech Education of the ATC program, and I'm going to ask him to come to the podium at this time.
I would come up here and accept my math certificate, but I need remediation, so I'll just be honest with you. I appreciate y'all having us. I've got some students with me and I've got some of my staff. This is Career and Technical Education Month, and so we wanted to do a little something to say how much we appreciate what you all have done for us. I know not only as board members, but some of y'all serve on my steering committee and advisory groups that we have at the school, and it really means a lot to us. But before I go into what we want to do real quick, I do want to recognize we had a blood drive the other day on last Friday, I think it was, wasn't it, Ms. Abner? And the kids registered 145 people. We took in 104 donations, which dating back, they started taking records back in 2003, and we set the record with 104 donations. So that's very impressive. And I think 96 were first-time donors. Is that correct? Was it 93 out of the 104 were first-time donors, so that was pretty impressive. Anyway, what we have done to kind of tell y'all thank you is the kids have made some pins. And we've kind of made a variety of them. I'm going to let Anna come here. No, not Anna. This is Michael Young. He's one of our welding students. And Ms. Ferris, you can go give Ms. Ferris hers. Yours is actually made out of walnut. And so y'all can't see them, but like I said, in their downtime, they've kind of made some of these things. And we've tried to individualize them as best we can. Yours is actually a click pen, which is a little bit different. And so Anna's got Ms. Hicks for hers. And Coy, Mr. Halls, or what? Now I want to show you this one, and I'm going to be. This is a bad time to bring this up, I know, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is actually a Civil War pen replica, they call it, and it's because the clip on it is a Springfield rifle, and I know guns are not a good topic right now. But the end of the pen is a 58 caliber shell, which they shot out of the Springfield rifle, and the other end is a replica of the 44 caliber, which they shot out of the sidearm. But this is considered a Civil War replica pen. So that's Mr. Swopes.
Oh. Appreciate it.
Now I'm going to let one of them, Mr. Rosenthal, do they know that you were at one time, and I think I'm right here, you were the editor of the Kentucky Colonel back in the good old days with Adolph Ruppner?
I was a sports editor.
Okay, the sports editor. Okay, so we've actually made you an acrylic pen, but it's a UK pen. Okay?
Perfect.
Take that over to him. He can look at it.
Usually just invisible here.
Well, I know that, so that's why. All right, now wait, I'm jiggling around. I got to find out what else. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Now this one's kind of cool, and y'all are going to be jealous because this is the most expensive pen, I'm just going to tell you. And it took the most time. But this is for Dr. Kudak, and this actually has, this is an inlay pen, which is kind of cool, and it's got the Caduceus insignia on it, but I'll let them give you that one. That was kind of cool. That was a first timer, so.
Thank you.
All right. You got one?
I think so.
All right.
Trying to make out with it, but,
Ms. Fatkin, we have one. We didn't know you were going to be here. We kind of thought you might.
You thought I'd be the ball game? I sat in the parking lot until the end of
In
the
debate.
first quarter.
But Mr. Swore, you can give that. He's our automotive teacher, but he's got one for.
tried to get big text put on there, but
Big Tex is the car, is our Suburban that I really had great difficulty handing the keys over to him that we donated so that they could work on. Thank you.
And then to our newest board member, would you like to give that to Ms. Wolf? So anyway, again, sincerely, we appreciate all y'all have done and your time and your effort. We hope that, these mean a little bit of something to you. The kids took a lot of time to do some of these, and they put a lot of effort into it. And so we wanted to recognize you all and say thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was such a pleasant surprise for us.
That was.
Very nice. Next, we have an update on the Partners in Education status as a 501c3 charitable organization. Ms. Hefner.
That's just a hard act to follow, and I can't quite do the same thing. However, I am excited to provide this update. In January, Partners in Education received their official letter making them a 501c3 nonprofit. This is something that the advisory committee for PI had determined was a goal over a year ago, and it's thanks mostly to Betty Berriman, the coordinator, that we actually finally got all that paperwork done. The purpose is to be able to hold fundraisers more easily and to be eligible for a greater variety of grants. The mission of Partners in Education will remain the same, to recruit partners and volunteers for our schools in order to increase student achievement. We'd like for the Board of Education to remain the fiscal agent for this current fiscal year for the $16,000 grant that we got from the Clark County Community Foundation. That was granted to the board to be used for the salary of the PI coordinator with the expectation that it would be administered by the Board of Education. We would like the other donations that have been made to be transferred to Partners in Education now, and that would allow easier accessibility to those funds. Since they have their official status, they're allowed to and able to handle their own finances. I'm currently the Secretary of Partners in Education Advisory Committee, and I intend to continue in that role, or at least as a member for the foreseeable future. Ms. Fatkin, Ms. Disney, and Ms. Rosenthal are also members, and we will certainly continue our strong ties and collaborations with the district as that is PI's mission. I'm kind of excited about this because that's part of the premise of community education, is to meet the needs of the district, start programs or have events or whatever needs to be done to meet the students' needs, and then be able to hand that off so that then we can turn around and meet some of the other needs that we have. So we don't want to start something that we're going to have to continue to infinity. So by making this a 501c3, we will be able to apply for some additional funding, and I'm really excited to see this come to fruition. It's been about 6 years in the making since we started Partners in Education through Community Ed. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had one of our students to show up, and we definitely want to recognize him. And we said earlier, Samuel Hernandez placed 63rd in the world during the month of January on the VMath program. Will you come forward to get your certificate?
Congratulations to Samuel, and thank the parents for coming.
Thank you.
The next item is the 6-month attendance update. Ms. Disney. You don't have as far to walk now.
No, I know. I can't trip over those cords now. As you know, our 6-month attendance, actually on the graph, I think we had that it ended 1-9. It was 2-8. Let me make that correction. But we've gone down a little bit. We've been sick a little bit, haven't we, Dr. Kudak?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
I am working hard.
And yes, I know you are. Actually, we've got right now about 34 kids on homebound. So we're really working on it. But we have gone to from 95 for overall to 94.83. I will tell you that yesterday was probably our lowest day that we've had all year, but today we were back up in the 93s as a district, so maybe we're getting better. But I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of a history. You can see the graphs, and you can see Providence now flies the flag.
Where's Mark?
There he is.
I didn't hear the crowing, Mark.
He was waiting on me by the door when I got there. I will tell you that for the most improved, again, is Fannie Bush.
Yes.
Fannie Bush from last year to this year has really, and I know everyone is focusing very hard on attendance. Everyone's being very cooperative, and they're getting, they're real quick to post, and they're just really on top of it. I can't say enough about our attendance clerks and how diligent they are with this. They're doing an excellent, excellent job. And as I said, yesterday was probably our lowest day, and it was at 88 yesterday. But today we're back up, we're at 93. So, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And congratulations to Providence and Fannie Bush and all the other schools who are working so hard on attendance. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we have an update on maintenance and repair plan. Mr. Christie.
As we start into the maintenance and repair, I'd like to say and give some credit to our custodial staff and our maintenance staff. I'd like to think that a lot of that great attendance is because of the efforts that they put forth and the things that they do in their buildings to keep those buildings and those environments healthy and clean. I gave you a couple of items there. The first one, it lists each school individually and lists some of the bulleted points that we've done this past summer. And when you see 2000 on the graph that you're looking at there, the dates, that reflects the summer of 2010, the summer of 2011. So you'll see what we've done at the schools. We did take on probably more interior painting on the buildings and the facilities this year than we have in many, many years. I think we were able to touch just about every building with some paint and in some hallways, classrooms, and some things there. We're back on track. We've got in our plan for purchasing furniture that went to the buildings, and you'll see in there how much we did. I can't remember overall. I think there was about 13 classrooms of furniture district-wide that we replaced this time. One of the things that through the plan we've done, we've identified sizes and colors that we're replacing in the buildings, so as this furniture, as the buildings change, the furniture can become mobile, and it doesn't look like it's been pieced together. It's the same in each of the buildings. We're trying to do that. So, and you'll also notice on there that every building in the district is still listed in this plan. At the time the plan was developed, we didn't know where we were going to be in the facilities plan. As buildings come offline, we'll readjust that. But in the meantime, the plan will stay in effect, and we'll continue to monitor and continue to do the things in those buildings to keep those buildings as update and in good repair, with all the furniture and the fixtures and everything in there as we possibly can. The money that we use to do most of this is as we work through the year, and now we're coming up onto the point where we're beginning to set our priorities for this coming summer with the monies that we have, that we know we're going to have, or that we feel we're going to have available. All these things that you see have been done within our budget. They're not things that we've come out and we've had to go and get extra money for. They're things that were that were budgeted for in the plan. We're starting down our priority list. You may have seen at some of the buildings, like the GRC last or summer before last, the front parking lot got striped and sealed. That was last year. This year, we were able to move on around and do the back part of it. We're doing buildings, we're picking it off as the most, in the areas of the most need. So it's not just by building, it's by need at each building. I'll try to answer any questions you might have about any of those items that we've done there. We will continue to do more painting this summer. We're still looking at some more asphalt work at the other schools and restriping of parking lots and some repavement repairs where need be.
Any questions to Mr. Christie regarding the maintenance report and plans? Anything? Thank you, Mr. Christie, and to the maintenance staff who help keep things the way they need to be and working. Yes, thank you. Any state and district updates, Ms. Ferris?
Just that you all have probably been getting the legislative updates on a regular basis, and had a conference call today. A couple of bills out there that they want superintendents to look at closely. One being the dropout rate, increasing the dropout age to 18, and the I guess the concern of the superintendents is if the bill that is on the table now is that each district will get to decide if they want to raise it to 18.
That's the Senate bill, right?
Right.
The House bill set 18 statewide.
Right.
So,
But the superintendent's concern is that if the bill comes out that it's left up to each local district, either one of them is an unfunded mandate. But I'm in support of it, of course, that we raise it to 18. If we're saying it's about college and career readiness, then we need to look at that as a priority. But it's still out there. We're not sure which one of the bills is actually going to fly. But I think it's one of those, it's going to be one or the other, I think, that'll come out this time. Either one, it's going to be an unfunded mandate. I would prefer that it would be the House bill where it's not a decision between the school districts, because what you're going to do is the possibility of moving from district to district and possibly some districts becoming dropout factories. So anyway, that's one of the major discussions. And then the other one was the going to the school closest to their district. I think that is probably one of those bills that probably wouldn't impact us as much as it would your larger districts, and also your districts in Eastern Kentucky that has a county district and an independent district. Those superintendents are very concerned about that bill. So that pretty much was the conference call today, that what they talked about. And then of course we have the new accountability model that we are implementing, that we'll be testing in the last 14 days of this month. And then ACT starts on, well, the ACT administered test will be on the 6th for all juniors across the state of Kentucky. So we're looking forward to that. It's pretty much all we got right now, and of course we know we got the redistricting issue on the table in Frankfort, and that's kind of taking up all the time, so not a lot of things are moving very quickly.
Thank you.
that can change.
It could. I hope we have a budget. That's my biggest concern.
Next, we have the overview of the progress monitoring process. Ms. Smith and Ms. Whitesides and Ms. Mann.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Lisa, Pam, and I would like to take a moment of your time to review progress monitoring that we're doing across the district. This is something that we have been initiating, and over the course of the last 3 years, this is actually our 3rd year in which that's being done. The initial purpose of this movement, as far as to look at district data, is to look at shifting the culture and the conversations that are taking place, and with the focus on student achievement being that main purpose, and that that information is driven by data in itself. One of the things is that obviously when we have these discussions, and we do this at the district level, within the building levels, in which we have an elementary and the secondary levels represented. And then we also had this conversation in direction with the special education and students at risk. In doing so, you know, we look at some specific things. We look at MAP, we look at mastery of content based on our learning mastery checks. We also look at information relevant to the EPAS as far as assessments in that regards. And in doing that and looking at this wide variety of data-driven information, we use that to guide discussions on the needs of the students. Are they mastering? What's being mastered? How do we move them to mastery? And in addition to, for the students that have mastered, how do we take them to that next step? So in looking at that, the overall process is the discussion of trying to move our students here in Clark County to put them in the position where they are addressing our 5 keys within the district and also moving them to being college and career ready.
At Central, we start with a global picture of our data with our students. Jeff, if you can go to the Central map data. We this is the format that we use at our school, and it allows us to filter for different students, different classrooms, different needs. It also allows us to track who the interventionists are and the types of services that our students are receiving. Initially, I started out globally with the map, and I meet with the teachers individually at the beginning of the school year before school ever begins to get a sense of where their class is, and it gives us a chance to look at which students are already starting out above grade level, so we know how to meet those needs, which students are on grade level and which ones may need a little bit more help. So we always start with our map. From there, we tried to kind of taper our view down. MAP is a universal screener. It's a big picture, but it isn't all of the data that we need in order to know how our students are achieving. So from there, we go to the learning checks, which will be the next one. As teachers give learning checks, this allows us to look at each set of standards, which children are mastering these, which students need more help, are these students getting interventions, and we can look at all of our subgroups by looking at this particular check. And we do these as they give an assessment. We sit down and we talk about the results of that and just decide how our kids are doing with the content that's being taught. To narrow it down even a little bit more, the next slide. At Central, we created a literacy plan, and each class, we've gone from the major assessment down to the individual classroom. And on this one, we have decided as a school, we've set benchmarks for literacy. And our goals with this is to eliminate the gaps between grade levels. So we have a continuum, and the teachers do periodic checks. So we look at the MAP data, we look at the reading levels, and we have benchmarks to see which students have reached those benchmarks and which students are in need of further assistance, which allows us to get even a little bit more tight with pinpointing our students who have any particular need. We can address it. The teachers collect this data, the teachers give this assessment. This is generated by the classroom teachers, so they are in complete control of this data as far as understanding it and using it. From there, we go a little further. We do weekly data team meetings. This takes it down even more specific, because at this point we're talking about particular standards. And we're experimenting with this year, and this is something that we learned from the 90 conference that Mrs. Ferris sent us to. And on this particular one, we're looking at math standards, and the teachers look at the standard they're teaching for the week, which children achieved that grade level standard, which students are working a grade level above that standard, which students fall a grade level below, and then they do a little bit of thinking about the strengths of the students, the needs of the students, and we talk every week, what are we going to do for the students who haven't reached their targets yet, and they make plans, instructional plans to shift the students' performance. From there, this is another one that we're trying this year, we want the student involved with the monitoring of their own progress. And for when students take these learning checks and these assessments and they make mistakes, it's my belief that in order for us to move a school, we as the educators have to become very diagnostic in our thinking about the work that the students are doing. And in order to do that, you really have to look at the misconceptions, the mistakes, those are the best places to find ways to teach the kids. So we allow the students to, the problems that they may have done incorrectly, they try it again to see maybe it was just a mistake. And then the students evaluate themselves and they'll say, I missed this because I didn't understand it, and this is an opportunity for the teacher to reteach, or I missed it because I didn't work carefully enough and I'm able to get it the second time around. So at Central, what we're doing is we start with the big global picture, and then we just slowly go all the way down to the student in the hopes that we are being very diagnostic and very universal in looking at the whole child.
At Clark Middle School, thank you, sir. We do the same thing. We start out by looking at the previous year's MAP data for the students, and as you can see, we have that on there. And then we go to the previous spring, we move to the fall, and then the winter MAP data. The teachers also do the mastery check data, and again, the MAP data is the universal screener, and then the mastery check data is about the standards that the teachers are teaching in the classroom. And you have there the reading and the math examples for the reading on the left and the math on the right. And then going on, every week we meet in our collegial meetings, just as Lisa has described, and we talk about individual students. As today was our collegial meeting day, and I go to the library at 8:45 and I am there until 3:30, and I just break for about 20 minutes for lunch, go down and read my emails or whatever. But we are talking about what are the instructional strategies that we can do to help our students who are not mastering 80% or higher. And the teachers have, they have brought, Justin, can you put that other, the other document on the screen? Today, one of the teachers brought this particular document, and it is, the standards are on the left-hand side, and this just happens to be a math.
Too far.
There you go. Thank you, sir. This is one of the documents that the teachers brought to the meetings today. The standards are on the left. The students' names are across the top, and of course we have those blocked out, but you can see the plus means that student mastered that particular standard in the last mastery check, and then the negative means that there's a need for some more reteaching or tutoring to take place there. The teachers usually teach new content Monday through Thursday, and on Friday we go back and have our review day, and the students get to retest and are re-taught all throughout the week in tutoring, and then they go back on Fridays and they get to retest, and we change those scores. The students know that their scores are changed. The only summative test we have at Clark Middle School is going to be the K-Prep, and we will get there in May, but they know that they are constantly working toward the mastery of the standards. The other thing that Clark Middle School is really focused on is the college and career readiness piece. We have divided all of our students into small groups of 14 and 15 students, and we have one time a month. We take about an hour, sometimes it's an hour and a half, and students are completing their ILPs, their individual learning plans, and they are having conversations with a staff member about how to fill out college applications. What are your interests? They filled out, I think last month, they filled out financial aid forms, and they are learning to do these kinds of things. And we also, Ms. Ferris, can I tell them about the Gear Up?
Yes.
Okay, well, Clark Middle and Conkright both are going to be a part of the Gear Up program, and we are so excited. This is one of the things that we've been working toward for about a year, and we recently got the information that we are going to be a part of that. And then, of course, those 7th grade students in March will be taking the Explore test. They took the Practice Explore early in September when the 8th grade took their Explore, and we're going to compare those scores and see how they have done over the year. And we're very excited because that means some extra staff help in mentoring our students to get college and career ready. And that is the big push here right now at Clark Middle School. We're talking about colleges and careers.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
At what grade level are you doing? Is it 6, 7, and 8 on your college and career readiness with the financial aid forms
Yes.
and that kind of
Yes.
thing? Okay.
Yes, and they're doing, they complete their ILPs first, and we are pushing for operation preparation to have all of our 8th graders finished by that March deadline. And then, so the 8th graders are getting finished first because they have the most to do, actually. And then, yes, but they all are having those conversations. I kept the 7th grade in the gym this morning before, after everybody else was dismissed, and we had a little conversation about where you're going to college and what you're thinking about.
Okay, I just realized that I just kind of blew right through some things real quickly. So I'm going to kind of take a moment, slow down, and readdress some things. I tell you what, Jeff, if you would mind, would you go to the third to the last slide, special education? I'm going to start there, but then I just want to bear with you. I'm going to step back because there's a big picture here that I really think it's important for you to see. In regards to talking about progress of students and monitoring student progress, one of the components is special education. That is a component, not the overall gist of this presentation. With special education, I think it's important that you realize 3 years ago, initially the reason why we started meeting and talking with the schools, going specifically, Mr. Stump and I would go to each individual school and we'd have conversations with a special education teacher. And at that time, the conversations revolved around review of the IEP goals, talking about how to look at the data that we're utilizing to determine proficiency. And in that conversation, we were talking about how can we best train our teachers to then in turn work with students about using their accommodations as an appropriate means to their fullest capabilities to increase student performance. Well, and then the next year, the second year into it, well, we've continued with looking at the IEP goals and objectives, but we also continued to consider what the district's use of what are we determined to create to extend our students to reach their goals of proficiency. But at the same time, we started looking at specifically how were we assessing the kids in the course of learning their content through the units of study. And at that time, we were calling them common assessments. And that was looking at the content that was being learned. Now, as you all are very well aware, we've gone through a recent change as far as we're now adopted national norm standards, and we have our own standards as adopted by the state of Kentucky. So this year, our conversation is at the point of we're looking at the students' demonstration of mastery of core content academic standards. And with this, the conversation revolves in as to, is the content mastered? And if it's mastered or not, how are we reteaching it? We're using this information to say why was the content possibly not mastered. Obviously, our ultimate goal is for them to master it, because when it comes to that is our ultimate goal, is for students to be able to master the information. But there is also another level of discussion here. We're talking about students that have, in some cases, very significant challenges on their hands. And with that being said, sometimes it's great to strive for mastery. It's great to strive for proficiency depending upon the lingo that we're using. But at the same scale, one child with a certain disability, what is mastery for them, they need to keep growing. And if their growth, that is a big conversation that we're having now, because a child may be demonstrating one level of performance, but over a period of time has continued to demonstrate consistent mastery and growth. And as you all are very well familiar with the accountability, that is a big component that we're going to be assessed on. Are we moving our kids? And then that's one of the components that we're having a huge discussion on. And in the course of being initially taught, being initially assessed, and then coming back and reteaching and reassess, has there been growth? So, and with that conversation, we're having conversations with teachers about what are the instructional practices and strategies that are appropriate for the students, as well as interventions. And those conversations are also not only happening within our venue, but they're happening in the venue within the building. That venue then in turn comes to the district level. We have, will you go to the next slide, Jeff? And the next slide, this right here, is an example of an analysis that was conducted by a teacher in our school district. At one of our meetings, we had a conversation. They were looking at mastery checks, and as you can see on this, they talked about the students participating in the mastery check. They looked at students that demonstrated growth, indicating regression. And the thing is with that, the conversation in this was, if they regress, we're looking at the why, the what, and the how. And so we're trying to then have that conversation of how do we then change the mode of instruction to address the student's needs. And then we come back and look at a later date, was it achieved? And so that's where the conversation is going now, and that's how we're addressing special ed. But Jeff, if I can get you to slide back to the fourth slide. All three of us have presented components that fall to the one big picture. And the big picture is the conversation at the district level. And as I said previously, this began 3 years ago. It was initially addressing some schools that were demonstrating need and looking at how are we going to get our students to meet AYP in reading and math. And as that conversation then turned, looking at changing the culture, changing the climate, changing students' performance and achievement. And then we evolved to, we have district meetings in which every principal that is present in this room, they come, they meet with the superintendent and other district central office representatives, and we have very candid conversations. And these questions are pretty poignant if you look at them. They're looking at specifically on the mastery checks, how are we assessing or what are the percentage of students that are mastered. Principals are coming in, identifying students in these buildings. They're identifying students that need to demonstrate mastery. They are also looking at how are we targeting our students and their needs, and they're looking at having very candid and very frank conversations on how to address them. And then we also have some very specific questions. Now, to kind of wrap this up, in the long run on the rationale, which is the final slide, Jeff, is looking at, if you kind of think about how can we relate this to what you all help us in leading our district. We have 5 keys of excellence in our district, and they are looking at that every student has the content standards, that they are monitoring mastery, that we're looking to move students that haven't mastered, as well as we're looking at providing pathways for the students who have to the next level. We're looking at changing the climate, creating a positive learning community, and we're talking about building relationships not only within our buildings but with our communities, and that's our overall goal. But when you tie that right to why are we looking at data, we're looking at the district conversations and culture. We're also looking at student achievement, and we're doing it very solidly related to data. So that's the reason why we do this, and we're doing this to improve our student achievement. And if you have any questions, we'd like to address those.
Questions to the presenters? Excellent information, folks. Excellent information. Thank you.
All our data that you showed us was Central and Clark Middle, but we're doing this district-wide.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And then I like the fact, and I know this is a lot of work for your staff, but I like the fact that you're doing this weekly because you're staying on top of those kids. It's really and I know it's a lot of work. I know it's a lot of work. So tell your staff, thank you very much.
And as Mrs. Ferris says, it creates that positive friction, that productive friction that you need to keep us going.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Bring out our preschool as well.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Great
Excellent
job.
presentation. Next, we have implementation and impact check of academic performance component of the CDIB.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to share from our district improvement plan. You had asked to see some impact statements, And so what we decided to do is pull out the components of the improvement plan are three major components. You have the academic performance, which is curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And then we have college and career readiness, and then we have learning environment. So tonight, we're just going to focus on the academic performance component because it is like 88 pages big, so we decided we would kind of break it down for you. What we did was we went through and we started with August because we have not been able to look at some of these strategies and activities that have been going on and to get some impact from it. So we started pulling those out and we put them together for you. I'm not going to go word for word because I think you had this document, and this is just for your information. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you. But you can see we have a lot going on just in the curriculum and instruction and assessment piece.
Questions to Ms. Considine regarding this aspect of the CDF?
No, just a word of thanks for bringing this out.
Not a problem.
Yes.
And this is going to...
And this is something that, now looking at the progress of these things, and some of these, we're doing a lot, but I think it's going to be key to monitoring the progress.
And that's what this is. Actually, if you look, the impact, that's why we call them progress and impact statements.
Right.
And then we'll bring you in March, you'll have the college and career ready. Then you will have the learning environment the following month. And then we will show you the short-term measures based on our MAP data. So we'll continue to just rotate every month, you'll have them. And then we'll show you in the progress statements what's going on. And then in red, you'll have how it's impacted. So we'll continue to bring it to you that way.
Good.
So this will be an ongoing document that you'll see.
Okay. And we'll make, and it's a working document.
Right.
So as we are looking at the progress that the schools are making, we may be making some changes. And then when we do, we will let you know which one of these strategies we had to change, because if it's not working, then we're going to try something else. So as we're moving forward, we've already got some strategies we need to add from some conversations we've had about maybe, we talked about some professional development we need to add from conversations we've had today at a couple of our schools that we probably need to add something. So it's a living document, it's ongoing, so we will continue to use it to guide us and to give us vision and to keep you on top of what is going on. And also probably to ask you for some support in supporting some of the things that we're going to have to do to ensure that we can get all our schools where they need to go.
Right.
So we'll continue to bring that to you on a rotating basis.
It's a good way for us to keep focused. So no questions?
Any questions, other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Considine.
Thank you.
Thanks. The next part of the agenda deals with student support services. The first item regards the transfer to the Partners in Education, some funding, now that they have received their
Yes, as Cora updated you earlier, as you said, Partners in Education received their 501c3 designation from the IRS, which means they can now be a separate entity, manage their own fiscal affairs, apply for grants independently of the Board of Education. With that said, they have requested that we transfer $31,803.94 of donations that are currently in our fiscal care to their bank account and to their fiscal care.
Any questions related to this request? All this is legal, right, Mr. President?
Yes, we did discuss with Buzzy. He just said put it on the agenda this way so that you all could approve it.
Yes.
We did discuss this.
Okay. I thought that had probably been done.
Yeah.
Your recommendation, Ms. Ferris?
I recommend that we approve the transfer of the Partners in Education's funding into the Partners in Education Fund from our general fund account.
A motion is in order.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Swope, second by Dr. Kudak. Other discussion? Those in favor of approving the transfer of the $31,803.94 donated to Partners in Education from the general fund to the Partners in Education account, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. The next item, to consider approval of creating a college and career ready advisory council. Ms. Ferris.
As you've heard many of our principals talk about tonight, of course, we know that the system, our goal is to have every student college and career ready when they leave our school district. And because of the focus nationally as well as statewide, I thought it would be a great idea for us to put an advisory council together so that we can continue to have this discussion, not only with district levels staff, but also it would be an opportunity for us to engage our community as well. And so where I'm asking that you allow us to create a College and Career Advisory Council with probably about 15 members, with one then a board member, and then we will have individuals on the council from the different roles across the community, probably from higher education, from some of our business partners, from some of our workforce individuals, so that we can probably on a monthly basis have conversation around how they can help us to improve our college and career readiness and to get to our goal of having 71% of our students there by 2014.
Questions about the request? A motion is in order to approve the College and Career Ready Advisory Council.
Make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Fatkin.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wolf. Other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And next, Ms. Rosenthal, consider approval of second reading of the revision of the policy 08.221.
I'm coming back to you this time with the, to consider the approval of second reading of policy, the revision of policy 08.221 that deals with the grading, the end of course exams, regulation changing from 30% to 20% of a student's final grade in a course. Be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions regarding the second reading?
You don't have no backup tonight, so.
Do what?
You
No,
don't
he's
have
not
no
here.
backup
He did a good job.
Okay. A motion is in order to approve second reading of the revision of policy 08.221.
Make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Fatkin.
I'll second.
Second by Dr. Kudak. Other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. I continue to not quite agree with this, so the motion carries 4-1. Next, we have additional revisions. This is first reading of 3 policies. Ms. Ryan.
Hello. I'm here to ask the board to consider approval of the first reading of revision of policies 03.1234, 03.1235, 03.2234, and 03.2235, having to do with the time frame that our employees who are on extended disability leave or educational leave, moving it from having to inform the board on April 15th back to April 1st.
Questions about this change?
What's the rationale behind it, just to give the district more time?
Approval of this revision should make the policy consistent with the April 1st deadline in another board policy, and it also gives the district more time to make non-renewal and hiring decisions.
Other questions or comments? Your recommendation, Ms. Farron?
I recommend that we approve first reading of revisions to the policies that have been presented tonight.
A motion is in order.
I make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Slow.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wolf. Other discussion? Those in favor of approving first reading of the policies presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And now we're doing the reversal. Approval, consider approval of the school council staffing allocation plan.
We have brought the revised school council staffing allocation plan with some minor changes on page 2. Other than that, no changes this year.
Questions about the changes? Or any other part of the plan, I'm guessing.
You might just add for our new board members that this is a
requirement by Kentucky Department of Education that the board approve a staffing plan each year. It doesn't have to be approved each year, only approved if there's a change. And we had a change this year, so that's why we have to bring that tonight.
Your recommendation, Ms. Ferris?
I recommend that we approve the school council staffing allocation plan as presented.
A motion is in order.
Make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Fatkin,
Second.
second by Dr. Kudak. Other discussion? Those in favor of approving the school council staffing allocation plan, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And continuing on.
In consultation with our financial consultants, they recommended that we consider approval of utilizing our current SBDM policy and projected 2012-13 enrollment to provide our SBDM allocations to each school council by May 1st. So we're asking that you basically approve this statement. It lets the schools know when the allocations can be expected to be received, and the legal deadline for final allocations in the state law is May 1st.
And this has come about because usually the law states March 1st. However, KDE has given school district the opportunity to have the draft by May 1st simply because for the last few years the uncertainty of the budget. And if we were to make those allocations before May 1st, before the General Assembly has adjourned and don't know what the budget is, we could be contractually obligated to personnel that we may not be able to afford. So this way we're asking that you allow us to wait till closer to May 1st, probably be before May 1st, but we definitely are not ready to do it by March 1st.
Questions or comments? So your recommendation, Ms. Ferris, is
to ask the board to allow us to wait until up till May 1st to provide our school councils with their allocations for the 2012-2013 school year.
A motion is in order.
Make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Fatkin,
Second.
second by Mr. Swope. Other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And continuing, Ms. Clark.
Always good news with we have received our offer of assistance for from the School Facilities Construction Commission in the amount of $112,799 for annual debt service. So this is to make debt service payments on future projects that we have to issue bonds for. And as stated, the amounts in the letter were incorrect. That came from the state, and I have included the corrected amounts on the balance for capital outlay and building fund in the transmittal form that went with the item. But we just need to accept the offer so that we can respond by the deadline. We do accept this.
So your recommendation, Ms. Ferris?
I'm recommending that we accept the FCC offer of assistance in the amount of $112,799 for annual debt service.
Motion is in order.
Make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Wool,
Second.
second by Ms. Fatkin. Other discussion? Those in favor of accepting the SFCC offer of assistance in the amount of $112,799 for annual debt service, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Christie.
Next item on the agenda is the approval, to consider your approval of the design development documents. And I forwarded to you an emailed version of that. I'll ask you, with your permission, ask Mr. Murrell if he wants to, if he can come up. I think he has some other documentation, and let him try and answer some questions about the actual document.
Sure.
I missed the table that we had over here with all of mine. Slides over there.
If you want to, Jeff, if you went on, you saw an early version of the floor plan, but we had just a real quick PowerPoint here. It also has some elevations and some stuff for kind of a model that we have done. It's kind of a computer rendering there. Okay. If you remember, we had schematic design approval. We have moved forward with what we call design development. It is just us keeping you updated here with the way the program looks. And so we've got, go ahead and continue on. We've got an overall of the floor plan here. Next slide, there you go. So you can see this is the end of the high school where the two wings are connected. And then this is kind of a zoomed in here on the area that has the administration offices there in the tan. You know, we've got a major corridor that is connecting from outside the school into the courtyard. There's a large, you know, yellow hall corridor there. We've got overhead doors on both ends for that. To the bottom of the page here is where we have the health services. Two classrooms that are being developed in terms of separate lecture area and then the darker color for the lab space themselves. We had an excellent meeting with Career and College Readiness Branch at KDE. Ms. Ferris, Mr. Christie were able to attend that with us, kind of got their input on the different curriculum items that we're including here in the ATC. They brought up a couple things that we've incorporated. They wanted some additional storage areas, offices for some of their programs that required to maintain the certifications that they have with the college and career readiness with the ATC efforts. Next slide is just kind of the other half of the building where we also have the carpentry there in the bottom left, the welding that we're developing with all the different welding booths and storage areas. You notice the classrooms are there on the hallway. Again, kind of, you know, what we had talked about at schematic where we're keeping a clean and sort of an accessible route through the classroom so you don't have students getting into the lab areas without teacher supervision. Next slide is just where we're showing you a little bit about what we're trying to do here. This is the back corner. To the far left is the main entry. That's that large corridor we were talking about. We've maintained the stone and the pattern, the ashlar pattern that we have, kind of that random ashlar at the bottom. Maintaining the brick, keeping that same look with also incorporating some of the metal panels that you see up the top left on that corridor that are similar to what you have on the auditorium elevation. And then the next slide is actually inside the courtyard, finishing that courtyard out, having the other side of that large corridor access to bring vehiculars in for maintenance purposes initially, and also if you want to have a show of some kind or a band or like have an Oktoberfest and bring in vendors or have like a program where you want to talk about ag and have a farm implement kind of, you know, tractors, supplies could be brought in and shown in the courtyard area. So that is kind of the overall, and then the final slide that we had here just for you is just showing sort of the site plan. Again, the overall, the area there to the left is your ATC that completely encloses the courtyard, and how we've kind of shown that indoor or outdoor patio area just outside the student service support area with the restrooms and everything there, kind of a vending area, and then allowing that all to be kind of connected and tied into the existing pedestrian pathways and the courtyard for the high school. And then we've included some additional parking that's on the outside of the ATC that was not in the original design where we just had the drive itself, so it's kind of a coordination issue there to put that additional parking and everything like that as we move forward with DDs. So.
Where's that? The additional parking?
If you look at the top left, there's a couple spaces outside the automotive and welding, and then we've got a large plaza area or enclosed storage area that's there between welding and carpentry, and then a few more parking spaces down there kind of vertically before you get down to the admin suite. That'll let us have some handicap parking there and a couple visitor spaces or something. Any other questions, comments? Like I say, we'll be sending this off to the Department of Education just to keep them up to speed and then moving forward with our construction documents.
Back on the very first slide, that
Mhm.
shows the big corridor.
Okay. Yes.
The medical cart storage,
Right.
that's kind of far away from health services. Does it relate to health services or is it for something else?
Well, it's both. It relates to health services in the fact that they help to staff that, but it actually is where we want that closer to if there were to be an accident or an event of some kind. It's near the labs where you have more likelihood of having a cut or a burn or a need for that cart.
So it's not supplies for the health sciences.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It's a kind of a
first aid for the entire.
First aid for the entire building, and particularly for carpentry, automotive, welding,
Right.
those labs.
Okay.
Mhm. Good
That
question.
makes sense.
Yeah, we had kind of programmed that with them, so they would have that out there. Instead of having to bring them all the way down to since you have a sort of a medical staff of some sorts there on campus, they wanted to get that cart closer to the students.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other kind of questions or? Okay, we're feeling pretty good about the information that we've gotten and where we're headed with this and everything like that. A lot of good feedback. The administration suite's probably the one that has shifted the most with trying to provide an actually large conference room there for meetings that they're going to be having. And so we've worked with the principal and staff to kind of identify all those areas and everything like that the way it lays out. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. So do you have anything else, Mr. Christie, related to this item?
Nothing to add to that.
Okay. Your recommendation, Ms. Ferris?
I recommend that you approve the design development documents for Phase 2 of the new GRC High School Project Area Technology Center.
A motion is in order.
Make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Patkin,
Second.
second by Mr. Swope. Other discussion? Those in favor of approving the design development documents for Phase 2 of the new GRC High School Project Area Technology Center, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And the next item, consider approval of completion of Phase 2 of the Technology Center by utilizing competitive bidding or the change order method.
I tried to on the documents that I sent you on that. You saw some email correspondence between David Bryant at KDE and Mr. Murrell talking about the possibilities of doing the project, whether it be by bidding or by using a change order method. Mr. Bryant laid out some things with our architects that some questions that would need to be answered. And that's why I included that email there, and you'll see also the answers to those questions from Mr. Murrell. And I tried to put together another document that gave you some pros and cons of looking at both ways, just for you to consider. So with that, having said that, if you have any questions, I can try to answer. If there's something that we need, I also may refer to Mr. Murrell on some of those.
Questions, board members?
Can you go over, we got an email detailing some of the pros and cons, so I would, can you speak to that? I mean, I think the advantages of having one contractor on site, continuity of work, continuity of materials are one thing, but I went ahead and I wrote the statute this afternoon, and for a project of this magnitude, state law pretty much says it needs to be competitively bid out.
And before it could ever go any further with change order, that would be also, if you pursued to go that direction, I think KDE would want to weigh in on that, and they would have to meet certain criteria. So, that's a board decision. I understand.
how does it work do other districts, I know Elaine had said our policy, but are there other districts that do it when you have a project this big that you can do a change order?
I'm not sure on that. I may have to let Ron answer that one. I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, when we started this process back in August, if there wasn't the ability to do this, I would have never have taken you down this path, okay? So I've kind of printed here, I don't know, the Section 8 that you're talking to in the code that was referred to in the email. David Bryan is talking about that, and it actually talks about the fact, and David mentions in his email, that the change order process has not been ruled out, because they have done we have added auditoriums by change order to projects. We've added anywhere from 4 to 6 classrooms, several $100,000, to up to millions of dollars by change order. With that said, there's no question this is one of the larger requests, which is why back in September I sent the letter to Greg Dunbar expressing our interest in doing this as a unique situation because of having a contract open and available, having a large amount of money in the contingency to kind of go ahead with what we were calling, I guess what I call Phase 2A, being the shell for the ATC, and Phase 2B being the finishes that would come later when monies were available. And so it makes it a little bit unique. One of the cons, I think, that we kind of talked about with David Bryant and KDE is that if you want to bid this, and I want to be clear, we're prepared, to do this whatever direction you, the board, chooses. In fact, that's one of the things that David Bryant had in his email, that this is a board determination, not a KDE determination. And there's latitude here, even when the document, there's no maximum amount by change order. They understand they have a thing that says that the change order scope and cost are considered within the norm based upon the information submitted, and that's where we put the letter together explaining what made this unique in the fact that you had monies for a shell, and we were asking for that to be able to maintain the materials and warranties and everything that goes along with both the shell and in the future the finishes.
Can we, in the bid, if we were to bid, can we specify those materials within the bidding documents to assure having the same thing, whether this contractor is doing it or someone else?
No and yes. Okay. No, because the Department of Education requires competition, so you will have to list 3 manufacturers, 3 different, to provide competition. If the purpose of this is to provide competition, you don't want to undo it immediately by writing a proprietary spec. Now, so that's the no part. The yes part is that you are allowed to have a owner preferred alternate or a manufacturer alternate. And I would suggest that if we go the bidding route, that we end up having as many as 20 or 30 alternates to maintain the systems and the look that you want. By that I mean the elevation that we showed. If you want to have the same brick and stone, we need to have those as an alternate. To have the same windows, so you have the same glass and not a different tint or something. To have the same doors or particularly the door hardware, so that we don't have different lock sets with different keys for this half of the building. We can have different keys or it keyed differently, but you want to have it on a Grand Master so that it's all consistent for everybody, from administrative to custodial, kind of thing. The roof, I would suggest we have a preferred vendor that you would request for the roof, so you have one roof manufacturer and one consistent warranty for the building. I think it's going to be very critical in terms of HVAC controls. We talked about doing the chilled beam and having Simco. That was one of the ones that you wanted as a preferred, vendor. We have the idea of lighting controls, the actual light fixtures. all the terrazzo that's been selected based on that manufacturer in terms of the colors and stuff that you've gone through. I mean, it goes on in terms of everything like you're mentioning that you would want to try to have to maintain that. So it's one of those kind of things. That's where I think KDE is saying, hey, this is kind of one of those unique situations. If we were 2 years down the road or 3 years down the road and the building was open, there'd be no question. We wouldn't have a contract open to do a change order. It would be bid. And then we would be doing the same thing, in terms of trying to ask for owner preferred, alternates to maintain some vendors. And maybe they wouldn't be as critical as they are when you're actually building the building or it's under construction as it is right now. The other part of this, I guess, and talks about this, is like when I mentioned Phase A and Phase B, again, we could potentially have D.W. Wilburn trying to finish the high school. We bid it here soon with the monies that are available for the shell and have a second general contractor on site, and then come back in August or September after the other monies are available the next fiscal year and bid it and have potentially a third general contractor on site, and them trying to work and coordinate all at the same time finishing the project is, I think, one of the cons. To speak to the Section 8, they talk about the fact that is, having to have a cost breakdown, and so one of the things is, I want to just make clear, when you bid a project like we did for the high school proper, you end up with one lump sum price that we got for the $39 million, and that's all that you see on bid day. One of the things that we will do here is we can require demand of D.W. Wilburn through the change order process. It's required to have that broken out with a lot more detail in terms of material and labor. And so we would ask for that like we do when we get our schedule of values that we have in your pay request that you're going to approve later. You can see that we have several pages of listing for the different materials broken out as labor and material costs for that. And so that's the kind of breakdown, the cost breakdown that we would provide to meet guidelines.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Henry, I know you like to be quiet, but what's your input on this?
Well, regardless of which direction you go, if you go with the change order, the Department of Education got to approve it anyway. I mean, they left it open, so I'm not normally sitting here voicing my opinion on which way you should go, so I'm not going to do that. It appears to me that the choice is up to the board. I'm not avoiding the question. I'll be glad to answer it, but I don't get into the policies.
No, like I said, I'm just concerned about the legal ramifications of, taking a project this large and using a change order to accomplish it. So,
but the Department of Education's already looked at that too.
Yeah, it's a good point. You're in a gray area. If obviously, if we were talking about the high school being done, then we would definitely be talking about bidding it. Conventional, advertise, get bids in from multiple vendors and everything like that. The thing about this is the reason we started back in August trying to go this direction, Dr. Kudek, is that if you have, like just even simple stuff like Wilburn is trying to complete the asphalt, like we were talking on the driveway, and at the same time a contractor's in there trying to put in footings and foundations. So when is he told not to complete something? Right. When he actually is under contract to be finished in January 25th or whatever of next year, and then we're also got somebody right there in the midst of this building this, where he's trying to complete the courtyard and somebody's shutting off access.
Well, and then we have our board policy that relates to the bidding that comes into play as well. Is that not correct, Mr. Rosenthal?
But you'd have to waive that.
And I think that's where the change order process has always been set up to allow you, when you have a contractor on site, and KDE has already approved change orders that we've had that have been in excess of the $20,000. I mean, for instance, if you had, now, of course, it was at 16,000, initially it was at 35,000 or something, but the last change order number 27 for the soil work that was done and the piping, if we had wanted to look at that and without having a number or the initial number we got, we would have actually had to bid that. And so it would have more or less stopped the project right there to take time to advertise and somehow bid that. And that's, I mean, that's a different magnitude, but that's kind of the same policy and procedure that we're allowing to do the change order process.
Let me ask a question, Ron. Actually, Kenny, do you mind answering the question? You're there's no D.W. Wilburn guy, and Herman's not here tonight, so if you can. Has a school or an entity ever put out there, if you can't answer, maybe Ron can, say you have materials in which, out of $3 million, we buy the materials. The school district can buy the materials, I believe, and we just bid out the labor. Can we do that? Or has anyone done that? I know in my business, if people bring me parts to put on, yeah, I'll do it. But that's me, small, very small fish in the sea.
I guess to answer that,
I don't want it. I don't want to put you right. I didn't expect. Sorry, Kenny. I didn't want to put you on the hook.
Go ahead, Ron. No, in some ways you're already buying the materials on the project because you have the direct purchase orders.
Yeah.
Okay, but there is a very defined system to do that, whether with the construction manager or with the general contractor, where you have to bid or ask for competition for the materials. To my knowledge, you're not allowed to just go buy something, especially with a board policy of $20,000. You would have to bid even what you're trying to buy.
Yeah.
And then turn it over to the contractor to install. We have a lot of items that sometimes might be something donated. It could be where you want to buy it to control it, and it'd be a owner-provided, contractor installed.
Yeah. I apologize, Kenny. I didn't mean to put you on the hot seat.
No, but you also want the total amount of monies to be bonded, completely bonded through that, in a sense, the GC as well, for protection of the board.
I can see actually both sides of this discussion. I can see take the contingency and going that way, and I can see bidding it out because that's the way our board policy has.
Right.
And if we waive that, then who says we can't go around somewhere down the line and waive a different board policy for different circumstances? So.
Ron, what's the total dollar value of phase 1 and phase 2?
Total? I think you'd probably be talking in the neighborhood of 45 to 46 million. We're at 39 million in phase 1 with another 6 million.
I'm just talking about just for the ATC.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So 2A and
3 million and 3 million kind of a thing is what we were looking at. I'm sorry. 2A and 2.
One big change order.
Actually, it'd be more like 2 big change orders because you would have one, or you can wait and do all the bidding at one time, or you can bid at 2 different events, 2 different times.
Okay, run that by again. If we were to bid it all at one time, when would that be?
After July, after you get your additional monies that were part of the arrangement that is allowing this change order. Joe Nance had conversations with Dr. Tarvin, I think at the same time that they were in conversation about Central and Concrite, about how funding was being established, where you were bidding those 2 projects and didn't have all the monies necessary. Same thing with the ATC. And so you have dollars earmarked. And so that would be, or you can wait, and like that's what I'm saying, if you're going to bid that and wait and bid it all at one time versus.
Okay, if we didn't bid it all at one time, then there's the possibility that we could have different contractors for the different parts and pieces.
Correct.
Yeah, like for instance, the Shell could have Company X the actual inside and everything else can have company-wide, along with DW Wilburn. You can have 3 contractors on the site.
And that's general contractors, and that's right. One of the things
true.
I'm worried about is having 3 different plumbers, 3 different electricians as far as subcontractors. Because you've got an electrician right now that's doing the work. Davison Plumbing is doing your HVAC with all the chilled beams, and then you could have somebody else that would come in, and so there's that whole division, you know, of when one person's area of responsibility stops and somebody else's area of responsibility starts for the shell and the below slab plumbing, and then starts again with putting in the fixtures, and somebody, you know, wanting to, you just lose a lot of continuity. Is why we went the direction of trying to request from the Department of Education their understanding of what was being asked, and getting them to say it's not ruled out, you have to do this, and it's a board, and they come back and say, just as Mr. Rosenthal, it's a board determination. In their email they say this is something for the board to determine, and with board action we'll review that and make sure the price support is there and meets the Section 8 in the regs.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
On your email, Ron, you got March 2012, begin construction phase 2A, and begin construction of phase 2B in July. What can be done in 4 months that a person can start on phase 2?
Well, July would be pretty aggressive. I think you could start in July for even the finishes, or like if you were bidding it all at one time. What I guess the quick answer is that, okay, you were talking about foundations and being able to coordinate with work that's going on out there in the field. We're trying to tell Wilburn not to brick the ends of the building because of where the connection's going to be. So there's going to be, regardless of what we do, there'll be some change orders with Wilburn to modify their work in order to allow, or to not have brick go up and then rip the brick, and then have somebody else have to rip the brick off. So a few simple things like that are going to have to take place. The foundation starting, if you wait till July and we have a BG1 to approve the overall with the finishes included, and then have to go through the process, you're talking about, even if we go ahead and finish the documents, which is why I need to know, and, you know, we've approved DDs, but trying to move forward with construction documents, if it doesn't work to do it by change order, I need to know, because I need to change what I draw and what specifications I write versus already having specifications with Wilburn. Then you come back to, in July, approving a BG1, could approve construction documents at the same time. KDE has to approve it. You have to then advertise. Then you have to, that's going to be 3 to 4 weeks. Then you have to have the bond sale, which requires another 21 days to advertisement after KDE approval. So I would be concerned that you'd begin to like October before you'd actually be almost like starting and be coming out of the ground.
How long does it take the time frame?
I'd say we're talking 12 months. I mean, we were hoping to get done for the start of school or move in with starting the foundations and then being able to do the finishes. We'd already be under roof by winter. I mean, the goal was to try to start foundations, get under roof before, you know, the end of the year 2012, and then finishes would start sometime in October, or September, October, and then be finished, in time for move-in in July, of 2013, and school to start August.
Other questions? Comments? And the $64 million question, your recommendation, Ms. Ferris?
I would have to recommend at this time that you have a board policy that says 04.32, that you bid anything over $20,000. However, if you want to do something different, you will have to advise me as to what it would be that you would want to do.
Okay, folks. We've heard that recommendation,
That was a recommendation.
or we've heard that explanation. Yes, that was a recommendation.
That you follow board policy 04.32. That's my recommendation.
So a motion is in order to approve completion of Phase 2 of the new George Rogers Clark High School Area Technology Center by utilizing the bidding method. That would be in accordance with our board policy of 04.332 or
04.32.
04.32.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dr. Kudak.
Second.
Second by Mr. Swope. Other discussion? Those in favor of approving the completion of Phase 2 of the new GRC High School Area Technology Center by utilizing the bidding method say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries 5-0 to proceed with the bidding method.
Can I ask for a clarification? Is it 2 bids or 1 bid? So I know how to proceed.
Dr. Kudak, you made that motion. Is it for Is it for 2 bids or 1 bid?
Well, it's an issue because the money's coming from 2 different places, so.
Do you have a recommendation related to that, Ms.
Okay, ask your
Harris?
architect what his recommendation.
What's your recommendation?
Board determination. My recommendation was to do it by change order since August, so now you're talking about having to decide between schedule and coordination and, you know, having multiple contractors on the site. So I really can't recommend that you bid it twice, and recommending that you bid it once is going to impact your schedule.
Well, here's what we'll do then. It sounds like that we need to have more discussion with the architect and the contractor, which we can do, the staff can do that. And then I can bring you back something, possibly, if we're gonna have a closed session in the next couple of weeks. I can bring you something back after we've done more investigation and got more professional advice on how we need to do that. Will that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yes.
Well, my concern is that you've got one chunk of it's coming from
Right.
already approved BG1 and another
Right.
chunk of it's coming from.
And we'll get professional recommendation on what would be the best way for this board to move forward, since you have decided that you want to do it with the bidding process.
Because we don't want to make this complicated, but at the same time, we want to stay within our policy and within those guidelines the state has put before us. And having a $6 million change order or 2 $3 million change orders.
It's a little.
That's like an IRS red flag. I can see that.
We'll make it work. I mean, that's what we pay the architect to do. So he'll make it work.
Yeah.
Maybe, I will say this, it may be a little more money. We'll go back and check the budget, because now you're going to have mobilization for multiple contractors and setup and everything
Or
like
it could
this.
be less.
Could be less.
So we gotta look at it both ways. That's why you bid it, because it could be less. So we gotta keep that on the table too.
Right.
Right.
Thank you. And now, continuing on with construction matters. Consider approval of pay application number 9 from Codell Construction Company for resident observer services.
That is in the amount of $9,375, as have the other 8.
Our usual part.
Yes.
A motion is in order.
I make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Thatkins, second by Dr. Kudak. Other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And more pay applications. The next one from D.W. Wilburn for pay application 15 in the amount of $1,032,088.50. Oh, I forgot to ask for your recommendation on the other one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So your recommendation on this one?
19.
20.
20.
I forgot
We skipped
19.
you on 19.
Oh, okay.
I forgot 19.
I recommend that we pay application number 15
Motion is in order.
Make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Patkin, second by Dr. Kudak. Other discussion? Those in favor of approving pay application number 15 in the amount of $1,032,088.50, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And continuing on, pay application number 2 from Codell Construction Company for construction services for the new elementary project, the amount of $270,562.46. Your recommendation, Ms. Ferris?
Recommend.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll try to be.
That we pay application number 2.
The motion is in order.
I made the motion. I was trying to be Debbie this time.
Motion by Mr. Swope.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wolf. Other discussion? Those in favor of approving pay application number 2 for $270,562.46 to Codell for the new elementary school project, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And continuing on with pay application number 2 from Codell for construction services for the Conkwright renovation project in the amount of $138,846.61. Ms. Ferris?
I recommend you approve pay application number 2.
Okay, a motion is in order.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Wolf,
Second.
second by Mr. Swope. Other discussion? Those in favor of approving pay application number 2 for from Codell for construction services for the Conkwright renovation project in the amount of $138,846.61, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay. The next item is internal board business. Our first one is to select a board member to serve on the College and Career Ready Advisory Council. I'd like to do that. I'll volunteer to do that unless someone else really wants to do that.
I'll nominate Ms. Davis.
Thank you, Dr. Kudak. Is there any objection to my serving?
No.
Okay. So that can be a general consent?
Yes.
The board agrees by general consent? Okay, thank you. We need to set a date for a disciplinary hearing. This is an added item 23A. We have a number of events coming up. Some dates that Ms. Ferris and I have looked at are February 29th. That doesn't seem to conflict with as many things as March 6th was the other date.
I can't do the 6th.
Or March 1st.
Regional?
Or March 1st.
I can't do March 1st.
Okay.
Debbie, regional?
I can do the 29th.
So that's kind of what the things
So,
coming up. It's
that's
29th. What kind of time, what's the earliest we could do this that would work with schedules?
I can do 8 a.m.
Oh,
Great.
Oh.
Does 8 o'clock work for you all?
I'm flexible.
29th. That's a Wednesday.
I can't do 8 a.m.
No.
Get delivery at 7:30.
Oh, in that case, we would want to interfere with that. Okay, so in the early afternoon,
What's the
evening.
earliest you can?
Anytime after 4 p.m. for me.
I'd say 6.
6 to 6 work?
Yeah, 6 works.
6 on the 29th.
Yes.
Does that work? Okay. So the disciplinary hearing will be at 6 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday, February 29th. Okay, so that's a general consent. Everybody's in agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
We probably need to, our board attorney, would you want to speak up on that day?
I'm not going to be there that day. You already know that.
He isn't, but there's nothing statutorily that says I can't
There's no reason.
just read the rights and the parents and kind of facilitate that if y'all are okay with that. And think I won't get you into any legal issues. I'll be glad to do that.
Are you available by phone in case anything comes up? Because we've done that before too.
Maybe I can watch it online anyway.
We'll put you on speaker.
It's a closed session on.
We'll put you on speaker, by the
You
way.
can do that.
Close session. We can Skype you.
Yeah.
I don't think there'll be any questions.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you.
Or we could always get another attorney come in if y'all more comfortable with that. Y'all fine? Okay.
Nobody knows how to answer the question.
Okay, moving on. Item 24, the overview of our KSBA annual conference. Ms. Wolf and Mr. Swope and Ms. Ferris and Dr. Kudak and I attended the annual conference a couple of weeks ago. Anything board members would like to share regarding that attendance, your favorite sessions attended, or?
I think my favorite and most interesting was how career ready are Kentucky's graduates, to those who matter the most, the 3 largest in Kentucky. That was very enlightening.
Excellent panel discussion.
One of the best ones I've seen in 3 years.
Yes. It was
They had representatives from Toyota,
Norton Healthcare,
Norton Healthcare,
and
UPS. And Dr. Whitlock from Eastern Kentucky University was the one facilitating it? Moderator. Is what do you call it?
And it was very valuable. We heard from the employers what our graduates, what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are. So it's really good to hear from that side of the table.
Right. Yes, I think for all of us that was our very favorite, and well presented and just great information. It was quite excellent. And then on the 11th we had a board retreat. All the board members and Ms. Ferris had retreat sessions that were conducted or facilitated by KSBA consultants. Mr. Bill Lovell from McLean County facilitated a board superintendent relationships and the policy making role of the board and the policy implementation role of the superintendent. And Brad Hughes, the communications person at KSBA, then did a communications session, and it was, very, very good. And it was the first retreat for our 2 newest board members, Ms. Wolf and Dr. Kudak, and the other board members want to offer anything regarding the retreat. One thing I have a note here on our college and career readiness that I wanted to bring up while we're together. Since our counseling programs are so involved with, or probably should be involved with their college and career readiness part, is there something like a program review that some of the other programs, some of the curriculum programs are doing that we could have done with our counseling programs to be sure that they're on board with national standards? Are there such things for counseling programs as there are for some of the curriculum areas?
Well, actually, there are national standards that are in place for counseling programs, and there are many people across the state that would probably put a team of review panels together to review to see that our counseling departments are aligned with the focus of college and career readiness. I think most of our counseling departments are probably what we remember them as being when we were in school, and how they did their purpose, and what their purpose was, and how they did their daily operations. So I think it would be very apropos for us to look at if that needs to be repurposed, or if we can look at how our elementary, middle, and high school counseling departments, and if they are making the impact that they need to on student achievement, or how else that they can support student achievement, or how we can support them to support student achievement. So I think it would be very advantageous for us to, if we want to call it program review, to look at that. If that's something the board would like for the staff to do, you're very much well in your authority to request that.
How do board members feel about that? And is that something that we could look at doing, or having our superintendent direct the staff to do, or however that works, if we would like to have that done?
And it may be that we would have to bring some external people in to help. You have a lot of universities that have very great counseling departments that would probably love to have that opportunity to come into a P12 district to kind of have that collaboration. So there are some people out there that we could probably asked to come in and help with that, if that's something that you would want to do. So I think it's something that we could probably make happen in the next few months. May not be something that we would be able to make any changes with until we had an opportunity to get past this school year, maybe looking at something that we could do for implementation, or start the implementation for the new school year, if it's something you want us to look at.
And especially in line with our AP programs that are going on, and that whole thing with the advanced placement, the foundation programs.
It's a new day out there
and
now.
The whole career readiness thing. So is that okay to have her do that? Okay. So we ask that you do whatever it takes to kind of facilitate, to get that going. Anything else on the retreat sessions that any of you all wanted to mention? Okay. The next item is the board self-evaluation to consider approval. This was the added item. I think there are 2 instruments in the additional information folder.
I think Bill said if this is something you all decided you wanted to do, that what we could do is you would fill those out. I would send those to him. They would have an opportunity to kind of look at the results, and then we would schedule a time for him to come back and have that discussion with you all as a board.
Okay.
If you decide you want to do this.
Okay. This is something, this is one of the items on our board protocols, is this an annual self-evaluation. So,
you have to decide which instrument you want to use, if you decide to do it.
okay, is there a preference for which instrument? Now, the one on the vertical one is similar to the one we used before, isn't it?
Can you do them both?
That's what I was thinking.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
that's
say,
what
You
well,
could.
Is there
Yeah,
any
why
reason
don't
why
we
we
do
couldn't
that?
do both?
Let's do both. Okay. And just
This
tell.
one is number oriented, the other one's narrative.
Right, yes, yes. Okay.
written response.
So is that enough of a decision? So is that a general agreement decision?
Yes.
Okay.
So what's going to be your deadline to get those back to, that I can send to Mr. Lovell?
Could we bring them, how's the 29th? When we come for our meeting?
Weekend day.
Would that work? Okay. And I'll try to remember to send out an email reminder, or have Ms. Ferris remind us. The next items are general consent agenda items. There are several, and I believe they are supposed to be read publicly. So, a motion is in order to approve the following consent agenda items. Consider approval of the BG4 closeout document for direct purchase order number DPO 074604. Clark County Board of Education PO number 11010029 for Canton Elevator, Inc. for the new GRC high school project in the amount of $62,723. Consider approval of the BG4 closeout document for the direct purchase order number DPO 074624, Board of Education PO number 11010049, to MMI of Kentucky for the new GRC Clark High School project in the amount of $104,105.40. Approve BG4 closeout document for the DPO number 074625, Board of Education PO number 11010050 to Namasco Corporation for the new GRC High School project in the amount of $175,000. Approve the BG4 closeout document for the direct purchase order number DPO 074631, Board of Education PO number 11010056 to PL Sherman for the new GRC High School project in the amount of $99,440. Approve the BG4 closeout document for the direct purchase order number DPO 074633, Board of Education PO number 11010058 to Plumber's Supply Company for the new GRC high school project in the amount of $70,000. And all of these are to close out the various, for these companies, these services have already been performed. This is the closeout part. Consider the following trip approvals. Concrite Technology Student Association trip to Louisville, March 15th through 17th, 2012. GRC Swim and Dive Team trip to Louisville to participate in State Swimming and Diving Meet, February 23rd through the 25th, 2012. GRC Varsity Cheerleader trip to NCAA Nationals in Louisville, March 2nd and 3rd, 2012. GRC Girls Basketball trip to tournament in Bowling Green, Kentucky, March 6th through the 10th, 2012. GRC Boys Basketball trip to tournament in Lexington, March 14th through 17th, 2012. Approval of the GRC TSA trip to state competition in Louisville, March 15th through 17th, 2012. GRC FCCLA trip to Louisville to participate in a leadership meeting, March 28th through 30th, 2012. GRC baseball trip to Greenup County to participate in the Greenup County Invitational Baseball Tournament, April 20th and 21st, 2012. GRC baseball trip to Hazard, Kentucky to participate in the Hazard High School Invitational Baseball Tournament, April 27th and 28th, 2012. Acknowledge the cash position report, the Clark County Clerk Motor Vehicle Tax Report, the Clark County Sheriff's Report, the monthly financial report, the General Fund Budget Summary Report, the Notice of Personnel Action Report, and to authorize the payment of salaries and accounts payable. The motion is in order.
Actually, on the, you said Grant County, it was Greenup County.
I'm sorry.
GRC baseball trip.
Greenup County to participate there. Does anyone have any questions about any of these items, or does anyone wish to consider any of the items separately?
You gotta change, you gotta read them all again. No.
Oh, man.
Thanks. See, I'm incorporating something we learned at our retreat, that we didn't need 3 motions, but now do you understand why I do 3? Okay.
I make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Statkin.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Wolf. Other discussion? Those in favor of approving the aforementioned consent items, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. A motion is in order to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ms. Wolf.
Second.
Second by Ms. Statkin. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries 5-0, and we are adjourned at 8:32 p.m. Thank you.